Welcome to the Rise of Cryptocurrencies show on Wealth Research Group. This is Lior Gans, and I'm thrilled to host Vortex of the Bitcoin news show from the World Crypto Network news channel. Now, his show is called the Bitcoin News Show, but it's much more than just Bitcoin. They cover all the cryptocurrency space, and their shows last between 1 hour and 2 hours. So if you're really invested in cryptocurrencies, this is a must show. And today we're going to cover a few of the largest cryptocurrencies. So with that intro, Vortex, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time, and really happy to be here.
You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. I love crypto, so I'm always ready to talk about crypto.
Okay, perfect. By the way, when did you join this industry first? When did you buy your first coins?
Sure. So it was actually back in 2012 is when I first heard about it from the Gawker News article about Silk Road. So I think that got a lot of people curious about it, and that's when I actually first started learning about it. And at first, of course, I thought it was just this currency to buy drugs, right? But then, of course, you fall down the rabbit hole, and you just never come back.
Understood. You know what? I just as a anecdote, I heard a story, confirmed if it's true or not, about a British dude who, when they just started mining Bitcoin, you can mine it from your laptop. He mined a whole bunch of them, but it made a lot of noise, and his girlfriend told him, look, you're ruining the laptop. Would you stop doing this? You're taking all hours of the day. Just get rid of it. And so he said, okay, fine. And because it was, I don't know, like a buck or something. And it was really early days. Anyways, he opens the newspaper like 6 months later, sees that Bitcoin is $100 and not $1 like he used to see it. Goes back home and searches for the computer and remembers that he threw it away a few months ago. And so he looks at his notes, and the guy mined 300,000 Bitcoins. Looked at all the landfills, called all the municipalities over there in the UK. That computer is somewhere it's worth today like $800 million. He couldn't find it. So lesson number one, don't listen to the girlfriend, right?
It's absolutely crazy, how the price has risen from the beginning of Bitcoin, and it surprises a lot of people who are on the periphery of the space. They don't really understand the fundamentals of what makes these cryptocurrencies of all sorts rise from pennies into hundreds of dollars, and there's going to be a bunch of those stories of people searching the landfills for their laptops with thousands of coins, and it really is a testament to the technology itself, to how fast this can rise, and there will be it's going to be funny. Everybody needs to remember where their Bitcoins are.
I remember when I first learned about it, I just got a gift from a friend early 2013, and I was in Aspen skiing, and the guy hosting us told me, hey, I'm gonna send you some coins as a gift. They were like $9, and so that was my first introduction to Bitcoin. I want to ask you about the challenges that Bitcoin has right now. You told me before the show started, it's going to have an insane 2 months here. Is this the peak? Are the glory days over? What are some of the challenges that we're going to face in August for Bitcoin? And do you think this is caused by the human factor or by the technological factor of Bitcoin?
So yeah, I really want to preface this with the fact that to tell everybody that this is really early days. I mean, this is really the 80s almost. We haven't even hit the 90s if you want to compare Bitcoin to the internet. We really are in the old days right now. And so there's going to be a lot more challenges to come. So everybody tries to look at Bitcoin and write all of these devastating articles, right? Bitcoin's dead. Bitcoin's dead. We've been hearing all of these obituaries for many years, and you can look this up. And with each obituary, there's a price next to it. And if you keep scrolling down there, the price is always rising as people continue to claim its death, but it's holding on, and there's reasons for that. The fundamentals really are carrying it, and there's a huge belief in it. Now it's a movement at this point, to re-envision money, to really reinvent money as we know it. And so, this is definitely not going to go away anytime soon. So it's not going to be without its challenges either. Anytime you try to reinvent something, it's going to come with all sorts of different haters and all sorts of criticism and all sorts of people that are just going to claim its death. But we're trying to reinvent money, right, itself. So that, of course, is going to be an uphill battle. And so Bitcoin, from its inception, pretty much has always been going downhill 100 miles an hour on fire, heading for a brick wall. But we never seem to actually hit the brick wall. Bitcoin always has, because people are invested in it, personally, people now have this huge motivation to protect it, to leak any information that they feel is going to hurt it. And so it's always going to have now this protection, almost like a web of protection around it. But with what's happening right now over the next couple of months is really going to be yet Bitcoin's greatest challenge in recent memory. And like I said, every year there's something. Every year somebody finds something to proclaim its death. But now people are finding something that we call BIP 148 and SegWit, segregated witness. So for a couple of years now, Bitcoin has tried to get SegWit, segregated witness, this new feature for Bitcoin. They've tried to get that actually on the network, activated on the network. But there's been a bit of some controversy between the miners and the core developers. And so here we are a couple years later, still debating, because nobody in Bitcoin is in control. Not the miners, not the users, not the exchanges. I mean, not the wallet providers. If anything, the users are in control. But even they can, be vetoed, so to speak, because it's in this adversarial game theory type of network. And so everybody is looking over everybody else's shoulder. And what that creates is a lot of controversy whenever there's some type of feature that wants to be added into the network, because we want to make sure to keep it safe as possible, because again, everybody is invested. So coming up, we have the BIP 148 activation that's going to be here on August 1st. So that's what everybody is kind of looking forward to right now. But because of the threat of this BIP 148, what we call a user activated soft fork, there has now been a huge meeting between industry members at the recent conference in New York called Consensus. That was Consensus 2017. And now they've come out with, Barry Silbert is leading this charge. They've come out with this thing called SegWit 2X to activate before the user activated soft fork in August 1st. So they're trying to start signaling by July 21st, I believe, is the date. And so now we have this thing, how are we going to activate SegWit? Are we going to activate it via the user activated soft fork? Or are we going to activate it via SegWit 2X? And so there's all of this uncertainty right now. People are not sure what's going to happen. Are we going to fork? Is there going to be two Bitcoin? And people are just not sure. So, that has created, personally, I see it as segregated witness is going to get activated. No matter what happens, we're going to get SegWit, and that's the next step. After that, we can take the challenges as they come, one by one. But segregated witness will get activated, and that will be absolutely amazingly beneficial for the network, both for the price, for the network, for the growth, for the developers. It's going to enable all sorts of new ideas, including things like Lightning Network, which again is going to help Bitcoin scale. So this is very important, and it's very exciting.
Interesting. Do you think this plays a role in Ethereum's latest surge up?
Sure. So yeah, there's a lot of people, because again, to understand the fundamentals of Bitcoin, right, you have to understand economics, finance, mathematics, computer science, programming. I mean, it really starts to get hairy really soon, really quick. And so, excuse me, not to mention cryptography, which of course is a huge field in of itself, right? So it's very challenging to try to figure out what's going to happen. And so on the periphery, on the outside, people are seeing Bitcoin as, it's the development is stalling. Bitcoin's price could come down to all this competition. It could flow over, right? We could have some spillage of Bitcoin value into these other altcoins, and that's why it's rising. That's why these altcoins are rising and things like that. But what's happening is that we're seeing this thing happen in Ethereum called an ICO, right? And an initial coin offering, where these people are raising tens and tens of millions of dollars in seconds, not minutes, not days, not hours, but seconds. And so what's happening is these projects are getting all the money that they need before they ever have a product. And so it's getting a little bit out of control, and that's helping drive price of Ethereum, upwards and onwards. But really, the world, what it is really is the world is finding out about cryptocurrencies. The beginning of the year, Litecoin was $1. Ethereum was a couple of dollars. The world is finding out about crypto, and so the liquidity is now starting to pour in. And this is just the beginning. Again, I got to state, it's very early days.
Now, Vortex, let's talk a little bit about Ethereum. First of all, do you think that part of the fact that Ethereum is rising is just because people have Bitcoins and they don't want to go through the hassle of liquidating and getting their dollars out of the exchanges? So they're just saying, hey, for the time being, until I know more, I'll just buy other coins. It took me so long to get verified by the exchanges and going through all the hoops. I don't want to liquidate because I need to get back in. Do you think that there's a lot of that going on in the crypto ecosystem? I would think that the technology barrier and just the bureaucracy with taking out your coins would cause many of the dollars that have been turned into cryptocurrencies to stay within the cryptocurrency space.
Sure. So there's going to be, of course, a lot of people who have Bitcoin that are going to, with their gains, right, speculate on other altcoins, and that's just investment, and that's just, it could be considered gambling even. But there are a lot of people who are going to do that, and that's fine. But the percentage, when you compare it to the growth of Ethereum, that's not what we're seeing. The vast majority of people that we're seeing coming into Ethereum are just to get rich quick, right? And that's fueled by these ICOs that are happening in Ethereum, which is now fueling the price. And so, yes, we have a lot of these people that want to stay in the crypto space, but again, it's just a lot more people coming into the space. There's all sorts of factors that are contributing to the rise of the market cap in general. We're now over 110, last time I checked, maybe $112 billion market cap. Literally, we added $1 billion of market cap a day for about 3 weeks straight there last month. And so there is just a huge amount of capital coming into the space because, again, there's only so many places you can put your capital, and people are now looking at cryptocurrency as one of those places.
Now, with regards to Ethereum, very different from Bitcoin. Has a founder. The founder is proclaimed as a genius. Works with governments. Works with banks. Is this the vision of the cryptocurrencies that Bitcoin users have, or is this sort of a hybrid between what cryptocurrencies are trying to avoid, which is getting within the fiat monetary system, and basically they found their guy who's going to create this merger between the two worlds?
So there's many ideologies, there's many groups that people have many opinions of, but I can tell you that the original cypherpunks, right, the people that were writing this code, these people who do math-based security, these people who were inventing cryptocurrencies, in the early days, or people like Nick Szabo and things like that with eGold, and these early days of crypto, they definitely, I don't think, were envisioning corporations and governments controlling cryptography, right? I believe that it was the very opposite. And cryptography allows you to have your own self-sovereign information. It allows you to have an identity. It allows you to actually have privacy. Without privacy, you're not free. Freedom is privacy, and this is what cryptography and cryptocurrencies is allowing us to have. And so, yes, we have this big thing called Ethereum with all of these corporations coming in, and even governments now talking, with the recent news about Putin from Russia talking with Vitalik from Ethereum, and there's all the speculation going on. But I can tell you that people want security, right? They want their hands held. And so for those type of people, this is the older type of thinking crowd. This is the older type of people who don't, they're used to this, right? They're used to their government helping them out. They're used to going to the government with all their problems. And so these type of people are going to flock to Ethereum. And this is unfortunately the majority of people right now. This is going to change over the next couple, as crypto more prevalent and cryptocurrencies start eating more and more of the world. But right now, this is the perfect marriage to get people introduced into cryptocurrency. Because when people start looking into Ethereum, they start figuring out how it works. They start asking, wait, why do we need this? Wait a second. They start asking the most important question: what is money? Right? And so that's what we want people to start doing. We want people to invest more into thinking about money, invest more into thinking about what is government, what is money, why do we need these things? And these types of people are going to start asking these questions. And that's really going to be important in the coming days as we have this huge cash ban that's coming from governments. Like more and more governments around the world are going to continue their war on cash. And we're going to have a world where we're going to have to choose. Do we want a digital cryptocurrency like Ethereum that's going to be run by governments and corporations? Or do we want this other cryptocurrency that is going to give us complete freedom, complete privacy, complete anonymity over all of our transactions? Which one do we want? And the answer is we're going to have both. Right, for the time being. We're going to have both because there's going to be a market for both. And they're both going to grow and grow. But in my opinion, the privacy-focused cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is going to eventually overtake even the government currency for benefits that we can't even come to imagine right now. The things they're going to be able to build with permissionless innovation that Bitcoin allows.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Ripple. You know, it's the third largest in market cap. Most people don't even know it exists. What exactly is Ripple?
So Ripple is basically an IOU, right? So I guess Ripple fans would describe it as the ability to transact in any currency instantly, globally around the world, right? And that's the dream of it. But what it really is, it's just an IOU token that's passed around banks, central banks. It's really not much different than centralized databases. In my opinion, it offers absolutely no benefits from SQL database running by banks. And so you have a lot of people that are trying to market it as the future. This is Bitcoin for banks. There's a lot of people saying that and things like that. And more banks have adopted it. In fact, they have, I think, their own consortium there of many different banks. But the thing is that, are the banks actually running the Ripple software? Are they actually using it? There's a bunch of banks that have signed on board to learn more about it and things like that. But are banks actually using it? I'm not even sure that many banks are using it. This is really a purely speculative asset at this point. Similar to all the other altcoins, there's just no real world use for it or real world use going on right now on that network.
I guess you don't own it.
Absolutely not. No, I actually don't own Ethereum either. Really, the only coin that I own is Bitcoin. I do have recently purchased a little bit of Litecoin now that, you know, it has risen like crazy. But other than that, no, Bitcoin is really the only coin that I own and the only coin that I can ever recommend. Let's
move on to Litecoin then. What's unique about it, and can you buy it easily right now?
Sure. So Litecoin is really interesting because it really has, in my opinion, one of the most honest crypto launches, one of the most honest launches of an altcoin. You know, Charlie Lee actually just recently quit his job at Coinbase to work full time on Litecoin. He really believes in the project. He's never really left it. He's always been a bit of a chaperone to you know, answer questions and help with like things like that. But now he's really going to go full time into Litecoin. And what really makes Litecoin special is, in my opinion, and the most special is that it's really close to Bitcoin. It's a fork of Bitcoin. And so the source code is really close to Bitcoin. There's only a few different changes that makes it better use for on-chain transactions, faster on-chain transactions and things like that than Bitcoin. But it's going to have its own scaling issues. And what's really cool is just recently segregated witness was activated on Litecoin. And so that's got a lot of people excited about Litecoin, because now people can start experimenting on that without having to actually go through any type of political drama on Bitcoin. They can just work on Litecoin in the time being until Bitcoin finally gets segued. And it will. Mark my words, it will get segued. It will get segued. I've been calling for this all year and last year. It will. But until then, we can experiment a great deal with Litecoin. And that really makes it really cool. And in my opinion, I really think that it's gonna stay right alongside Bitcoin for the time being. It's really going to be the silver to Bitcoin's gold for many years to come.
So how easily can you buy it?
Yeah, so right now, just recently, Coinbase has added the ability to buy Litecoin with dollars. And so that's really cool. It's also been on many exchanges. It's pretty much on every single exchange that Bitcoin is on and has been for many years. Remember, it's almost as old as Bitcoin itself. It's one of the oldest altcoins out there.
Vortex, how much can you buy right now of Litecoin in a week?
So Coinbase has all sorts of limits, right? As all the exchanges do, they have their limits to make sure that there's no bank runs or no crazy things happening. But I'm not actually sure what the Coinbase limits are. I would assume that it's only, you know, a few thousand. It depends on how much information you give them, right? That's the whole thing. It's based on this KYC or anti-money laundering law stuff, right? So if you give them your next of kin, right, then you can probably buy in the tens of thousands quite easily.
Understood. We had Amanda Johnson from Dash not too long ago. Dash is the 9th ranked by market cap, and she basically said that from her perspective, Dash's management with their innovation and their uniqueness and their focus on privacy, she thinks that will be the best cryptocurrency of them all. Does she have a point, or do you disagree?
So, this really comes back to the battle, right? The battle between centralization versus decentralization, the battle of trade-offs. And so what you're going to have is, with centralized systems like Dash, you're going to have the ability to make decisions pretty fast, right? Like, if you want a bridge built, then the best way to do it is to get a centralized team, a guy leading the pack, leading the whole team. They'll be able to get it done very fast, right, and very efficient. But that comes with costs. The amount of people that have the say on how to build that bridge is very, very limited. And so you build up this type of elitism and this type of group of people who have control over the entire network. And again, even the team that wanted to fork Bitcoin Unlimited, they were going to, their vision was very similar to Dash's, where they wanted a president, right? They wanted a centralized bottom-up structure like a corporation. And again, there's benefits, there's trade-offs to that, there's benefits. But what we've seen is that corporations always get, right? Money always corrupts people eventually. These centralized systems, they corrupt people. It's like Andreas likes to describe it as a bit of a triangle. And at the top is the most psychopathic people around, right? Because it takes that much time to go over to the top of the pyramid. And so Bitcoin is very flat. It's completely flat compared to this pyramid, where everybody always has a say. And there's a lot of inefficiencies with this. But what we've seen over the years is that no matter what happens with Bitcoin, it always prevails. Somebody always comes up with a solution for something somewhere. And what happens is we can't predict when or how that's going to happen. And so that's very uncertain, right? That scares a lot of people. It's a much different than a centralized system where you can just say, okay, this is what's on the calendar. With Bitcoin, you never quite know. And what we've seen is that that's actually efficient. That actually keeps the network running. Nobody thought that this would work. I mean, a lot of people were introduced to Bitcoin in the beginning and didn't think it was going to work. But what we've seen over the years is time and time again, it works. It works because of incentives and game theory that keeps this decentralized system having the same goals, everybody having the same goals, and that is to keep Bitcoin going. I mean, Dash, it's a different coin. It's other coins, and they're great that all these people are experimenting. And don't get me wrong, I love the experimentation that we're seeing both with Dash and Ethereum and all of these other coins. It's absolutely wonderful. But I see all of these altcoins as simply nothing more than an extension of Bitcoin itself, because most of these altcoins are actually forked from Bitcoin in the first place. They're actually using the source code that Bitcoin uses. And so in the end of the day, there's no actual competition between these coins, in my opinion. It's just Bitcoin. And we're going to be a lot of experimentation at the tail end of all of these thousands of coins. But at the end of the day, they're all going to be tradable for Bitcoin, and they're all going to be based off of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is really the gold that's backing up all of these other currencies. And Dash they have their own way of doing things, and that's great. But in my opinion, this decentralized cryptocurrency movement is not about advertisements. It's not about CEOs. It's not about shareholders. It's about changing money as we know it. It's about this new crypto revolution, right? This global financial renaissance that I like to call it, and that's what it's about there at the end of the day.
Now, when you buy a Bitcoin, for example, what do you own?
So you own a piece of the Bitcoin network, right? So you actually own. It's like in the early days, if you could buy a piece of the internet, the only way to do that, to buy a piece of the internet in the early days, was, for example, to invest in a company like Amazon or Google. And if you didn't do that, then you did not really benefit financially from the internet. Of course, in a myriad of other ways, everybody benefited from the internet. And that's actually going to be very similar to what happens with Bitcoin. Even if you did not financially invest in it, you actually still will benefit from its effects, just like the internet. We're basically democratizing finance, just like the internet democratized information. And so when you buy a piece of Bitcoin, you own a piece of that network, and you can cryptographically verify that you own a piece of this network, and nobody and nothing can ever take that away. And there will never, ever, ever be more than 21 million coins. So you can guarantee that you'll have a piece of that network forever.
So, in other words, what would be the problem once those coins are fully priced? What is the fair market value for a Bitcoin?
Sure. So really, the fair market value of Bitcoin, like anything else, is whatever the market is willing to pay for it, right? And right now, the fundamentals of Bitcoin state that it's a deflationary currency and that it actually must go up in price because it will continue to become more rare. And so the fundamentals all point to up and up and up. If we get segregated witness in there, this summer on August 1st, then you can bet that we're going to see 5 digits sooner than later, 5-digit Bitcoin prices. And what Satoshi even said in his white paper, the creator of Bitcoin, that really Bitcoin in theory has no top. The top of Bitcoin is the top of the human imagination, which is basically limitless, right? So in theory, Bitcoin has no top.
Okay, but if I'm looking to use cryptocurrencies, I'm looking to make a transaction, to transfer value to somebody else, why would I pay such a large premium and do it with Bitcoin when I can do it with other trustworthy currencies for much less? In other words,
sure.
If Bitcoin is a payment system, is a peer-to-peer payment system, a way for me to take either my dollars or whatever else I have and send it to another person, why would I do it with? Why would I buy a Bitcoin that cost me 10 or 15 or 20,000 and down the road, as you believe it will, and not just do it with something that is of less value? Why would somebody use a Bitcoin if it's more expensive than other cryptos for the sole purpose of making a payment and not owning it? If you own if you proclaim that the intrinsic value comes from owning a piece of the network, well, if everyone who bought Bitcoin just owned their own piece of the network, then Bitcoin would not be a payment system. It would just be 21 million people owning 21 million pieces of something that they do not want to trade with each other. So the paradox here is, if you're using Bitcoin for what it was meant to be, a payment system between peers, then what does it matter which coin I use to make my payments? If you're using it as an asset, as a piece of a network, then the network gets its value from the fact that people transact within the network. Otherwise, why own a Bitcoin? What's the utility of it if you're not making any payments?
Sure. So a lot to unpack there. So let me start out with saying that, of course, Bitcoin is divisible, right, by many places, by 8 places. So you don't actually have to buy a whole Bitcoin to use Bitcoin. Right? You can just buy a little piece, $10, $20. That's very important, first of all, because many people don't know that. You don't actually have to buy a whole Bitcoin to use it. And so people see these prices and they get very intimidated. They're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to use this $3,000 asset for? Things like that, right? But so there's a couple things to say. So first of all, again, I want to emphasize that this is very early days. So what we see Bitcoin as right now is not going to be Bitcoin in the future. So again, coming back to the internet analogy, we used to use dial-up modems, right, and download simple text and animated GIFs. There's no way that the internet could even support video, let alone HD video, let alone 4K, right, and on and on and on as we continue to keep evolving. So that's an important thing to understand, is that Bitcoin as it is right now will not be Bitcoin as it is in the future. So we are continuing to evolve Bitcoin. We are continuing to improve Bitcoin. And as I stated, as we talked about earlier, with this activation of SegWit around August of this year, that will provide the building blocks to do further scaling. That will actually allow Bitcoin to be an even better payment network and compete much more with these other altcoins that don't actually have any activity on them. And so that's another important point, is that all of these other altcoins, they have not gone through the scaling issues that Bitcoin has gone through yet. Not Dash, not Ethereum, not Litecoin, not any other coin available has ever had the amount of transactions, the amount of activity and use that Bitcoin has had around the world. So that's very important. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing these other altcoins like Ethereum proclaim to have scaling solved, proclaim to have the fastest instant transactions, but nobody is using their networks. So we actually can't quantify anything that they're saying. We can attempt to with looking at their source code, and we can say, look, there's no way this is going to scale. And many people have said that. For example, with Ethereum, Peter Todd has outlined that there's just no way Ethereum in its current form could ever scale to be what it claims to be, which is this world computer, right? Which, of course, people right now are only using it for ICOs. But as it stands right now, as we are right now in the time-space continuum, right, as where we are right now in time, Bitcoin is better used as a digital gold more than an actual payment network. Now, it's very important to understand that it is still a payment network. I can still send you digital gold. You can still send me digital gold. But yes, it's more expensive because of the value that Bitcoin holds. The main value of Bitcoin is the fact that there's 21 million coins and the fact that there's this mining network securing it. It is the most secure network on the planet. There's nothing that can come close. Again, no altcoin, not Ethereum, not Dash. Nobody has the actual proof of work mining security power that Bitcoin has, not even close. We're talking many orders of magnitude that Bitcoin has over these other altcoins. So the main reasons that you would right now use and purchase Bitcoin is to have this digital gold that you can store and that you can transfer over if you need to. And for large purchases like buying a house, buying a yacht, right? Buying these large purchases, that is a really good use for Bitcoin because you can transfer huge amounts of money. And when you're talking about huge amounts of money, we're talking in the millions of dollars. You better make sure that you are transferring over the most secure network possible if you're transferring millions of dollars. You do not want to transfer millions of dollars over a network that can go down. For example, Ethereum just recently has been the entire network been grinding to a halt with the launch of a new ICO almost every day. It is grinding their network to a halt because Ethereum has never had much use. Nobody's ever used it other than speculation on exchanges. And so one of the main reasons you want to use So one of the main uses you want to use Bitcoin right now for is mostly a digital gold. But if we go further, and it's security, but if we go further down the time frame, only a couple more years from now, we will see that Bitcoin scaling has improved, and it will continue to improve, and we will have video, then HD video, then 4K video, and so on and so forth with Bitcoin. And it will be this ubiquitous network that everybody and anybody on the planet can have access to. And it's these network effects. Trace Mayer likes to talk about these 7 different network effects that Bitcoin has that just continue to push it further and further up and further into our global world. And basically into our lives. The incentives are off the charts for the perceived value that Bitcoin could actually be one day. And so right now, you have these coins like Litecoin and Ethereum that can transfer stuff pretty cheap. Well, when Ethereum is actually working, they can transfer stuff pretty cheap. But as Ethereum is finding out, it is becoming more and more expensive to transfer their transactions. It's becoming more and more. It's something like almost 50 cents. They're closing in on $1. And it wasn't too long ago where Bitcoin was closing in on that, and people were starting to get worried. And they need to get worried because these things have to be scaled. Not one single cryptocurrency right now is ready for full-on global use. Not even Bitcoin. It is just not ready. Again, we are in the very, very early days. So right now, Bitcoin is going to be used as a digital gold, and these other currencies are going to be a little bit easier to transfer value in. But this is going to change in the coming years.
Vortex, very, very interesting stuff. Your thoughts on Stimit and on Monero?
Sure. So again, this experimentation that's happening in this global financial renaissance we're seeing around the world is just fascinating. All of these people are coming up with all of these new ways to think about money, and it's just amazing. It's almost like we've stolen fire from the gods, right? We are now creating money, the thing that only governments and kings could do before, we can now do on our laptops, right? So these new things like Steemit, all of these altcoins are fascinating, but Steemit is very interesting. They tried to come into the space and monetize on social media over this cryptocurrency blockchain, right? And so they had some success. There was some interest that's going on in there, but unfortunately, in my opinion, that their business model, both their business model and their economic model for their blockchain is very flawed. It's just not going to scale and going to really work long term, in my opinion. I really think that there's something there, though. I think that if you combine, if you combine social media and cryptocurrency, I do believe that there's a way to combine these two and make it huge, right? Make a company out of it. But I don't think that Steemit is going to be the answer. However, it is a great stepping block, a great stepping stone. Now, Monero is a different beast altogether almost, because Monero wasn't a fork of Bitcoin. Monero was something started that was completely new. And so it's very interesting to watch it actually attempt to scale as well, because they're currently working on their own scaling issues as well, like everybody really is. Well, let me put it this way, the only coin that's actually working on scaling issues are the coins that are actually in use, right? So we see Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Monero. These are the ones that people are actually using for things, and they're now having to work on scaling. And so I think it's absolutely great, and there's all sorts of benefits that these altcoins can give to Bitcoin in the future. There's all sorts of things that Bitcoin is learning from these altcoins, and that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Vortex, let's talk a little bit about your show. What have you done in the past 5 shows? What are the hottest topics that people are talking about right now?
Well, it's I tell you, it's always an exciting time in cryptocurrency. There's just not one single day that goes by that there's not some kind of drama that we can look at and try to figure out what's going on, because we're talking about money, right? And there's nothing that brings up more emotion, more feeling, more success, more dread than money. Money is really a central part of our economy and our existence as a society. And so there's just the way that we're revolutionizing in the crypto space is just, there's always going to be something that's very interesting coming down the line. And so right now, really the last few shows that we've been talking about is this whole scaling debate with Bitcoin, specifically with segregated witness. And it was Bitcoin Unlimited, and now we're talking about SegWit 2x, and it's just this ongoing battle to try to get Bitcoin scaled. And really what's happening now is we're now getting to that point. We are coming to the end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's been multiple years now, but we are ready to go. This year, SegWit will get activated, and so that's what we're really been talking about mostly on these shows lately. And we try to have a new special guest on every episode. We're having Charlie Shrem on tomorrow, and we're having Trace Mayer on the show after that. Before that, we had Charlie Lee, and so we try to get a bunch of these people that are really important in the crypto community to talk about the goings on of Bitcoin, to talk about the current events, and to really get their thoughts, to figure out, what are they actually thinking? The people who are in this, the people that are in the trenches every day, what is it like? What are they thinking? And what are their opinions on the current events? And so that's kind of what I try to bring with my show. It's not so much almost even a news show. It's more of a discussion about the news, and to really get people's thoughts about what their thoughts and feelings about what's going on.
Very interesting. Vortex, thank you very much for taking the time here. Plug people into your channel again, the name of the channel.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can follow me and everything that I'm talking about with Bitcoin and with the World Crypto Network and with my show, the Bitcoin News Show. You can follow me on Twitter at @the1vortex, all spelled out, just like it's spelled out there. And then my show is the Bitcoin News Show on the World Crypto Network YouTube channel. On that YouTube channel, we have different shows, and we have people like Tone Vase, Thomas Hunt, Gabriel Devine, all these great people that are creating all this great content on there to talk about cryptocurrencies and really bring it to the masses.
Vortex, very smart guy. Make sure that you go to his channel. It's certainly the 80s for these cryptocurrencies. Thank you very much for taking the time today.
Thanks so much, man. I had a great time.